Now, ransomware infection vectors. And before we move on, a poll should have popped up on your screen asking, has ransomware infected any of your systems at your home or place of work? And we'll look at the results in a few minutes. The most common infection vectors for ransomware is first via malicious email attachments. Emails come in and contain malicious attachments that need to be opened in order to properly execute and infect computers. So they have to use social engineering to convince users that they should open the attachments. So what malicious actors will do is pretend to be a mail service, colleagues at work, family members, or many other things, all with the hope that someone will open the attachment. Oh, and people definitely do open those attachments. According to the Verizon Data Breach Report of 2016, 12% of people opened attachments in phishing emails last year. Next, the most common form of infection vector is from malicious websites and the utilization of drive-by downloads. Drive-by downloads is basically when you go to a website and a download either tells you it's something that you want and not actually a piece of malware, or when you go to a site and something automatically gets downloaded to your computer without your knowledge. Then, finally, ransomware can infect you, of course, by being installed by another piece of malware, downloader, or backdoor. So after you're initially infected by a piece of malware, that piece of malware then downloads a ransomware variant that infects you. So let's take a look at the results of that poll. Has ransomware infected any of your systems? So it looks like 30% of people who are on the webinar today has had a ransomware infection at work. 5% at home and 4.5% at both work and home. So I would expect it to be a little bit higher on the home side, but at the work side, 1 in 3 people has been experiencing ransomware at their business, which is very high. On the mobile side, there are a few different ways that you can get infected from ransomware. First, visiting untrusted or unsafe websites. Next, false warning pop-ups indicating that you're required to update something or you're required to remove or clean something. And when you click update, you're brought to a malicious payload. Automatic download of malicious apps. Once again, this is similar on the computer side where the download can happen automatically. Then finally, manual installation by the user, where the user may think they're downloading something safe or benign, and in fact, they just downloaded malware directly to their mobile device. So what do you do if you are infected? If you ever get infected by ransomware, you should immediately disconnect the device from the internet and network and power off the device. Next, you should contact your IT department, who should then contact both the endpoint security vendor's support team and law enforcement. And typically, law enforcement has teams that handle electronic crimes, including ransomware, because you want the police to understand that this is a problem that continually occurs. So on to ransomware prevention. How can you protect yourself? So when it comes to ransomware prevention, a multi-layered approach is very important, and it's made up of a few different categories. First, email filtering. Due to the fact that a majority of ransomware is entering via email attachments, you can provide a first layer of defense by having a solution that properly filters for spam and phishing emails. Then, based off your company policies, you can block all attachment types that your business does not traditionally want being sent via email. Of course, the more types you block, the less you will have to worry about malware being delivered via email attachments. However, keep in mind, lots of ransomware has historically been delivered via Office files such as docs, utilizing macros. Next, web filter. By implementing a web content filter, you should be able to block malicious websites as well as any websites you deem inappropriate for work use. Filtering internet access can help to reduce the infection rate of your organization by not allowing employees to go to non-approved websites. Next, patching. As we saw with WannaCryptor or WannaCry, an unpatched system allowed the ransomware to enter the system as well as spread from system to system. So making sure first that your OS is as up to date as possible, but also making sure your third-party software is up to date is extremely important. Along the same lines, you might want to think about locking systems down in order to stop ransomware and other threats that enter a computer through Office macros or require administrative privileges. Endpoint security or antivirus, anti-malware products, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're utilizing the newest version of the company's product. And that product is successfully retrieving its daily updates. If the vendor has a cloud component, make sure it's turned on, as this allows even faster response and reaction to new zero-day threats. ESET calls this component Live Grid. User training's next, and user training is important to reduce the amount of incidents your company has by teaching users what to look for and what to avoid when it comes to phishing and other malicious content. This also helps the users to report to the IT department when they notice something, which can allow the IT departments to tweak the spam filter or bolster any other defenses they may have. And finally, backups. If you're ever hit with a ransomware attack, having backups will allow you to easily recover all of the data. However, it's important to stress that offline backups is what you need. And you need offline backups due to ransomware and its ability to encrypt network drives, or how it can now spread. You don't want your backups to be vulnerable to this sort of attack. And if your backups are mounted or on the network, that infection can easily spread to your backups, and now you have no way to restore the data. So by having them in an offline state guarantees that they will be available when you need them. After looking at the last slide, another poll should have popped up asking how many of you currently utilize a patch management system or offline backups. And if you get a ransomware infection, should you pay the ransom? At ESET, we advise all of our business and consumers not to pay the ransom. Because first, there's no guarantee that the criminals will unlock your device, or that the decryption process will work if you do pay. So if you ever do actually pay the ransom, you're fueling future attacks, because now they have money to continue to do so. And even if they do decrypt your files, cyber criminals now know you're a person who will pay them, and they can immediately attack you again. So paying the ransom is definitely not advised. So let's look at the results of that poll that just popped up. And it was, do you currently utilize a patch management system or offline backups? So it looks like barely anyone has a patch management system. Only 30% of people have offline backups, but then we have 50% who actually have both. So we can see a good breakdown across the people attending this webinar and the systems they have in place. But like I recommended a few slides, anyone who doesn't have offline backups, I definitely recommend getting those set up and configured so that you don't have to worry about your backups being compromised as well. After you get infected with a ransomware infection, another thing to look into is decryptors. And decryptors are available from endpoint security vendors' websites, including ESET's. And this is because sometimes encrypted files can be decrypted. This could save you time rather than recovering all the files from the backup, and depending on when your last backup was, a decryptor could provide a much more recent version. Usually decryptors are created whenever a weakness is found in their encryption methodology, or when they release the encryption keys that they utilize to facilitate these attacks. then a decryptor will be created in order to help you restore access to your data.